Part 1. The station that orbited the dead moon of Prime was older than most civilizations. It had floated in the cold dark of space for 11,000 standard cycles, watching and listening to everything the universe had to say. The beings who worked there called themselves the Monitoring Collective, and their job was simple. They listened. They recorded. They tried to understand. Analyst 4 had worked at the station for 300 cycles. She was good at her job. Her species, had evolved to notice patterns. Their eyes could see in 17 different spectrums. Their minds could hold millions of data points at once and find the connections between them. In all her years of service, 4 had never seen anything that truly surprised her. Until the day she noticed the spikes. It started as a small thing, a tiny blip on her morning readings. The station's sensors could detect radiation from across the galaxy, could hear the death screams of dying stars and the quiet hum of planets being born. Every day, 4 reviewed thousands of signals. Most were ordinary: solar flares, pulsar rotations, the slow grinding of black holes eating their way through space. But this signal was different. It came from a small planet in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. The planet was mostly water, with patches of green and brown land. Its sun was yellow and medium-sized. There was nothing special about it at all, except for this strange signal that kept appearing and disappearing. 4 ran a diagnostic on her equipment. Perhaps something was broken. Perhaps dust had gotten into the sensors. She cleaned everything and ran the tests again. The signal was still there. She called her supervisor, Senior Observer Sen. Sen was old, even by standards. He had been with the collective since before 4 was born. His body was thin and gray, and his eyes had grown cloudy from centuries of staring at screens. But his mind was still sharp. "Show me," he said. 4 pulled up the data on the central display. A graph appeared, showing readings over the past 10 cycles. Most of the lines were flat and steady, but one line kept jumping up and down in wild, irregular spikes. "The Theta Joy band," 4 explained. "We rarely see activity in this frequency. It is associated with certain emotional states in organic beings, but the readings are always faint. Background noise mostly, but this," she pointed at the spikes, "this is strong, very strong, and it comes from that planet." Sen leaned closer to the screen. His cloudy eyes narrowed. "Sol 3, he said softly, "the humans." 4 had heard of humans, of course. Everyone had. They were a young species, barely crawled out of their planetary cradle. They had only discovered space travel a few generations ago. They were loud and messy and too fast. Most of the older species considered them a nuisance, like weeds that kept growing no matter how much you ignored them. "What are they doing?" 4 asked. "That is what we must find out." Over the next several cycles, 4 studied the signal obsessively. She mapped its timing, its strength, its location on the planet's surface. She cross-referenced it with weather patterns, geological activity, and electromagnetic output from human technology. Nothing matched. The spikes came at odd hours. They appeared over different parts of the planet in different time zones with no apparent connection. Sometimes they lasted for a few minutes. Sometimes they went on for hours. And every time they appeared, the readings were so strong that they sent ripples through subspace. 4 had never felt anything like it. When the spikes hit, something happened to her. A warmth spread through her chest. Her eyes grew wet. She felt an emotion she could not name, something between joy and longing, like remembering a happy dream she had never actually had. Other researchers reported the same thing. The collective was full of different species, beings with different bodies and different minds, but they all felt it. When the Theta Joy frequency spiked, everyone stopped what they were doing. Everyone just listened and felt. "It is impossible," said Dr. the station's chief physicist. "Emotions do not transmit through space. They are chemical reactions in organic brains. They cannot travel faster than light. They cannot cross the void." And yet, Sen replied, we feel them. They called the phenomenon the resonance. 4 continued her research. She obtained access to human surveillance data, recordings from probes that had been watching Sol 3 for decades. She watched hours and hours of footage, trying to find the source of the signal. She watched humans wage wars and sign peace treaties. She watched them build cities and tear them down. She watched them worship strange gods and argue about things that made no sense. None of it correlated with the resonance. Then, almost by accident, she found it. She was reviewing footage from a small landmass the humans called North America. The recording showed a large building surrounded by green grass. Small humans were running around outside, chasing each other, falling down, getting up again, and laughing. The resonance spiked. 4 checked the timestamp. It matched perfectly. She found another recording from a different continent showing the same thing. Small humans playing together. The resonance spiked again. She pulled up recordings from all over the planet. Wherever she found groups of young humans playing together, she found the signal. It did not matter what they were playing. It did not matter what language they spoke or what color their skin was. Whenever human children gathered and played, the universe sang. 4 presented her findings to the full research team. They watched the footage in silence. On the screen, a group of human children were building something out of sand. They kept knocking it down and building it again, laughing every time it fell. The resonance washed over the room like a warm wave. They do not know, 4 said quietly. They have no idea what they are doing. Sen shook his head slowly. No, they do not. The collective spent another cycle confirming the findings. They checked and double-checked every piece of data. They ruled out every other possible explanation. The conclusion was unavoidable. Human children, playing together, generated a cosmic frequency that existed nowhere else in the known universe. The frequency was strong enough to detect from orbital distance. It was strong enough to detect from the moon. And on certain days, when enough children played at once, it was strong enough to detect from outside the human solar system entirely. Sen called an emergency meeting. We must inform the council, he said. This changes everything. 4 was not sure what he meant. She was a scientist. She dealt in data and measurements. But as she watched the footage of human children one more time, she began to understand. In all the galaxy, across all the worlds the collective had ever studied, they had never found anything like this. They had found intelligent life. They had found art and music and mathematics. They had found species that could bend space and time, but they had never found a species that could make the universe itself feel joy. The humans did not even know they were special. Their adults walked past playing children every day without a second glance. They built their schools and their playgrounds and their parks, never realizing that they were constructing temples to something cosmic and profound. 4 saved her final report and attached it to the message that would be sent to the Galactic Council. She did not know what would happen next. She did not know how the other species would react to this news. But as she listened to the laughter of human children echoing through her speakers, she knew one thing for certain. The universe had been waiting for this signal for a very long time. Part 2. The Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest enclosed space ever built. It floated in the void between stars, a massive sphere of crystal and metal that could hold representatives from 1,000 different worlds. When the emergency session was called, only 47 species sent delegates, but those 47 were enough to fill the hall with a noise that echoed off the curved walls. Ambassador of the Mantoid hegemony clicked his mandibles impatiently. His species had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 50,000 cycles. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched younger species struggle and fail. Very little surprised them anymore. But the data being presented today surprised him very much. Senior Observer Sen stood at the central podium. his thin gray form projected onto screens throughout the hall. Behind him, graphs and charts displayed the evidence the collective had gathered. The readings were undeniable. "Let me understand," clicked, his translator rendering his words into the common language. "You are saying that the infant humans, the small ones, create this frequency by running around and making noise?" "Not exactly, Ambassador," Sen replied. "The frequency is not generated by physical activity alone. Solitary human children produce minimal readings. The phenomenon occurs specifically when multiple juvenile humans engage in unstructured cooperative activity, what they call games, what they call play." The hall buzzed with confused chatter. Representatives whispered to each other, trying to understand what they were hearing. A delegate from the silicate communion raised a crystalline appendage. "Define play," they requested. "Our species does not engage in this behavior." Sen paused. This was a difficult question. Many species in the galaxy did not play. Their young emerged fully formed, with all the knowledge they needed programmed into their genetics or downloaded into their minds. The concept of wasting time on activities with no practical purpose was foreign to them. "Play is a form of social bonding," Sen explained carefully. "Human children engage in it voluntarily. There is no goal except enjoyment, no purpose except connection. They invent rules and then break them. They pretend to be things they are not. They run and jump and fall down and get up again. And when they do these things together, the theta joy frequency activates." "And this frequency," clicked, "you say it affects the fabric of space itself?" Sen nodded. "The readings suggest that the frequency creates harmonics in subspace. It resonates through dimensions we do not fully understand. We have detected it from outside the human solar system. We believe that given sufficient amplitude, it could be detected from anywhere in the galaxy." The hall fell silent. Everyone present understood what this meant. The galaxy was a dangerous place. Species competed for resources, for territory, for survival. Information was power, and a signal that could be detected from anywhere was a signal that could be tracked, followed, exploited. But that was not why the silence stretched so long. The silence stretched because every being in that hall had felt the resonance when Sen played the recordings. They had all experienced that strange warmth, that impossible joy, that echo of something they thought they had lost forever. The crystalline harmonists of Velar 6 moved toward the central podium. Their species communicated through vibration and resonance. They did not use words the way other species did. Instead, they sang, and their song was translated by the hall's systems. "We know this frequency," they sang, their crystalline bodies chiming in complex harmonics. "We have searched for it for 10,000 cycles. Our oldest records speak of it. Our ancestors called it the song of first things." The hall stirred. The harmonists were an ancient species, one of the oldest still surviving. Their records predated most of the civilizations represented in the chamber. "In the time before time," the harmonists continued, "when the first ones walked among the stars, they left behind traces of their existence, artifacts, technologies, and a frequency that our ancestors believed was the sound of creation itself, the sound the universe made when it was new and full of potential. We thought it was lost when the first ones departed. We thought it was gone forever." They turned toward Sen, their crystalline forms catching the light. But it was not gone. It was waiting, waiting in the hearts of children who had not yet learned to be afraid. Ambassador rose from his seat. "This is speculation," he clicked sharply. "Ancient legends and mystical nonsense. We need facts, not fairy tales." "The facts are in the data," Sen replied calmly. "The collective does not deal in fairy tales, Ambassador. We deal in measurements and observations. And our measurements show that human children produce a frequency that exists nowhere else in the known universe. You can call it what you like, but it is real." A delegate from the Confederacy spoke up. There were logical beings driven by reason and evidence. What are the practical implications? They asked. Why does this matter? Sen had been waiting for this question. The practical implications are enormous, he said. First, if this frequency can be harnessed, it could revolutionize faster-than-light communication. The harmonics it creates in subspace are unlike anything we have seen. Second, and more importantly, the frequency appears to have effects on organic beings. All species who have been exposed to recordings of the resonance have reported positive emotional responses: depression, anxiety, despair. These things seem to fade in its presence. He paused to let this sink in. There are species in this hall who have struggled with these problems species who have lost their capacity for joy, for hope, for connection. The resonance might help them. It might heal wounds we thought could never be healed. The delegate nodded slowly. And what do the humans want in exchange for access to this resource? The humans do not know, Sen replied. They have no idea what their children produce. They cannot detect the frequency with their current technology. They do not know they possess something precious. This statement created an uproar. Several delegates began talking at once, their translators struggling to keep up. Some saw opportunity, a resource the humans did not know could be taken without negotiation. Others saw danger. What would happen when the humans discovered the truth? How would they react? Ambassador clicked for silence. We must be careful, he said. The humans are a young species, impulsive, unpredictable. If they learn that their children are valuable to us, they may try to exploit the situation. They may demand payment. They may become arrogant. Or, the harmonist sang softly, they may simply share, as children share their games, without thought of profit or power. Made a dismissive sound. That is not how the universe works. Perhaps, Sen said quietly, that is because we have forgotten how children work. The debate continued for hours. Delegates argued about politics and economics, about treaties and trade agreements. They discussed the humans as if they were a commodity to be managed, a resource to be exploited. But through it all, the resonance played softly in the background of every mind present. The memory of it, the feeling of it, would not go away. Finally, a vote was called. The council would send a research delegation to Sol 3. They would make contact with the humans. They would observe the phenomenon directly, and they would decide what to do based on what they found. The vote passed unanimously. As the delegates filed out of the hall, the harmonists approached Sen. You understand, they sang, that this will change everything, not just for the humans, for all of us. Sen looked at the empty podium, at the silent screens, at the vast darkness of space visible through the crystal walls. Yes, he said, I think I do. The delegation was assembled within 3 cycles. 12 species sent representatives, scientists and diplomats, observers and guards. They boarded their ships and set course for the small blue planet where children played without knowing they were broadcasting miracles into the void. None of them knew what they would find when they got there. None of them knew how much they were about to learn. Part 3. Doctor had spent her entire career preparing for first contact. She had studied xenobiology, linguistics, diplomacy, and psychology. She had run simulations and written papers and attended conferences where serious people discussed serious scenarios about how humanity might one day meet beings from other worlds. None of those scenarios had included an alien delegation asking permission to watch children play at a playground in suburban Ohio. Yet here she was, standing at the edge of Riverside Elementary School's outdoor play area, watching representatives from 12 different spacefaring civilizations sit on plastic benches designed for human adults. The benches were too small for most of them. The mantoid ambassador had to fold his long limbs in ways that looked uncomfortable. The silicate delegate simply hovered slightly above the seat, not touching it at all. But they were all focused on the same thing, the children. It was recess time. The playground was full of noise and motion. Kids ran and shouted and laughed. They played tag and foursquare and games they made up on the spot with rules that changed every few minutes. They fell down and scraped their knees and cried for a moment before getting up and playing again. The alien delegates watched in silence. Doctor had been briefed on the resonance, of course. The aliens had shared their data as part of the contact protocols. She understood, intellectually, what was happening, but understanding something and experiencing it were two different things. She watched a group of second graders building something out of. They were arguing about what it was supposed to be. A castle, a spaceship, a dinosaur. They could not agree, and somehow this disagreement was part of the fun. They kept adding to their creation, changing it, destroying it, starting over. The harmonist representative began to glow faintly. Their crystalline body resonated with frequencies Doctor could almost feel in her bones. This, they sang quietly, this is what we lost. This is what we forgot. Senior Observer Sen had explained it to her on the first day. His species, he said, had evolved past play thousands of cycles ago. Their children were taught efficiency from birth. Every moment was optimized for productivity. There was no wasted time, no pointless activity, no joy without purpose. We thought we were advancing, he had told her. We thought we were becoming better, but we were cutting out our own hearts. Doctor had not known how to respond to that. Now, 2 weeks into the observation period, she was beginning to understand. Every day the delegates came to the playground. Every day they watched, and every day something changed in them. The mantoid ambassador, who had been sharp and suspicious at first, grew quieter and softer. The representatives, who had wanted to analyze everything scientifically, stopped taking notes and simply watched. The silicate delegate, who had admitted to never experiencing emotions before, reported feeling something strange and warm in their mineral core. The children had no idea what was happening. To them, the aliens were just weird visitors who showed up every day to sit on the benches. Some kids waved at them. Some kids asked them questions. One brave girl named Maya had walked right up to Ambassador and asked why he had so many arms. "Because my species evolved that way," had replied, his translator making his click sound almost gentle. "Cool," Maya had said. "Wanna play foursquare?" Had declined, but Doctor had seen something flicker in his compound eyes, something like longing. On the final day of the observation period, the delegates gathered for a closing meeting. Doctor attended as humanity's representative. The meeting was held in a conference room at her department's headquarters, far from the playground and the children. The room felt cold and sterile compared to the chaos of recess. Zen spoke first. "We have completed our observations," he said. "The data confirms everything we believed. Human children, when playing together, generate a frequency that exists nowhere else in the known universe. This frequency has measurable effects on organic and inorganic beings alike. It promotes emotional well-being, social bonding, and a sense of hope that we have found difficult to quantify but impossible to deny." He paused. "We have also learned something we did not expect. The frequency cannot be artificially replicated. We tried. Our scientists worked for cycles trying to synthesize it, but it only occurs naturally, spontaneously when human children play together by choice, without structure, without purpose, without any goal except joy." Doctor felt all the alien eyes in the room turn toward her. "What do you want?" she asked. It was a blunt question, but she was tired of diplomatic dancing. "What do you want from us, from our children?" Sen glanced at the other delegates. Something passed between them, some communication Doctor could not follow. "We want to learn," he said finally. "That is all. We want to remember what we have forgotten. We want to understand what you still possess." "And what is that exactly?" The harmonists stepped forward. Their song was soft and sad. "Joy," they sang. "Pure, creative, collaborative joy. Your species still has it. Your children carry it in their hearts like a flame. And when they come together, they set the universe on fire." Doctor thought about that. She thought about playgrounds and parks and backyards full of laughing children. She thought about her own childhood, about the games she had played with friends whose names she could barely remember now. She thought about the feeling of running without knowing where she was going, of making up stories with no ending, of falling down and getting up again. She had forgotten how that felt. When had she forgotten? Why us? She asked. Why human children specifically? Other species have young, other species play. Sen shook his head. Not like humans. Most species evolve past play quickly. Their young learn efficiency, productivity, survival. They stop playing as soon as they can. But human children play for years, sometimes decades, sometimes their entire lives. You do not see it as a weakness. You see it as a gift. It is a gift, the harmonist sang. The greatest gift any species has ever possessed. The meeting continued for another hour, but the important part was already over. The aliens did not want to exploit humanity's children. They did not want to take anything by force. They simply wanted to be near them, to watch them play, to remember what joy felt like. Ambassador approached Doctor as the meeting ended. I must ask you something, he clicked quietly. That human child, Maya, she invited me to play. Why did she do that? Doctor smiled. Because that is what children do. They see someone standing alone and they invite them to join. They do not think about whether it is appropriate or productive. They just do it. Was silent for a long moment. My species has not done this for 10,000 cycles, he said. We have forgotten how. Then maybe, Doctor said gently, it is time to remember. The next day, Doctor returned to Riverside Elementary. The alien delegates were there again, sitting on their two small benches, watching the children play. But something was different. Maya had approached Ambassador again. This time, she was holding a jump rope. It is easy, she was saying. You just swing it and jump over it like this. She demonstrated, her braids bouncing as she hopped. Looked at the jump rope. He looked at Maya. He looked at his 4 arms and his long legs and his body that had never done anything without purpose in his entire existence. Then slowly he stood up. Doctor watched as the mantoid ambassador took the jump rope in 2 of his hands. He was clumsy at first. He missed the rope and stumbled. Maya laughed, not meanly, and showed him again. On the 3rd try, jumped. It was graceless and awkward, and nothing like the efficient movements his species was known for. But it was play. The resonance spiked harder than Doctor had ever felt it. Warmth spread through her chest. Her eyes grew wet. Around the playground, the other alien delegates were rising from their benches, moving toward the children, asking if they could join. The harmonists began to glow brighter than ever before. Their song filled the air, mixing with the laughter of children and the clicking of a mantoid ambassador who had just discovered that falling down was not failure. It was just part of the game. That afternoon, sensors across the galaxy registered the highest theta joy reading ever recorded. Scientists on 100 worlds looked at their instruments in disbelief. Some thought their equipment was broken. Some thought it was a cosmic event, a supernova or a dimensional rift. But a few understood what it meant. Somewhere on a small blue planet in an unremarkable spiral arm, children were teaching aliens how to play. And the universe, for the first time in a very long time, was learning to laugh again.